Hi there. Good to see you. It's been a little while since I recorded a new video for you, so I'm glad to be here. And I plan today to talk with you about the mindfulness and psychotherapy parts of your chapter 9 in your textbook. It's interesting that they combined it there in the behaviorism chapter. It makes sense and kind of surprising, because in my mind, behaviorism seems so old school and mindfulness is so new school. Both very helpful, but it's an interesting combo. So great job on your course so far. You've been working diligently for several months now. And we have just as many weeks as you can count on your hand left, and a few more theories. So today, mindfulness, then we'll do cognitive behavioral therapy, reality therapy and theory, feminist and postmodern approaches, and then we are wrapping up. So it's coming, folks. You made it. I know it feels like a long haul at this point. So today I get to talk to you, though, about the mindfulness and psychotherapy aspect. First of all, I think your text alludes to this, that mindfulness theories or treatments are sort of the new wave in counseling. In my mind, it's almost like a new wave in our whole culture. Like there's mindful everything. And the more that I teach mindfulness, the more I see it everywhere. It's surprising to me the ways we market things. So it's mindfulness is very powerful, and I'll be talking more about that here. Let's see, I have notes, but all of a sudden they got confusing to me. Well, I think that one of the concerns, here's what I had there, about things coming in a wave, is that we think, oh, it's the latest thing, excellent. I'm going to get one of these self-help books. I'm going to get some little interventions, and I'm going to have my client try them. And that sometimes can work, but it's not grounded in anything. And really, this whole course is about you learning how to be grounded in a theory, in a base. And so doing that kind of picking and choosing, I think I've been saying this all along, can be really problematic. So I also think that mindfulness is very powerful, and in a sense, it needs to be respected. And what I mean is that using one little tool and giving it to your client to try is a sort of haphazard way to use it. And I think the effective way to work with mindfulness is to have your own practice, to understand it personally in a deep personal way before you try to share it with others. So, and we'll go over that more here. I think my notes are not going to help today. I think they're making it worse. Certainly mindfulness methods fit well within CBT, which we haven't covered yet. It's going to be next module. And so you may be pulling in a mindfulness method under a CBT grounding or umbrella. Isn't that funny? Ground and umbrella both. But some base that you'd be working from. So that would work as well. So there are all sorts of mindfulness-based psychotherapies out there, or treatments that are in our culture now. The first was mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR. And so going into some history about mindfulness, then MBSR was created by Jon Kabat-Zinn, who was a professor at the University of Massachusetts Med School. And he was a Zen practitioner and a yoga practitioner. And he had this thought, well, what if I could find a way to offer this to people that they could accept it, and they, how would that help them relate differently to their disease? So he asked all the, not all, but he asked many physicians at the university if they would send him their hardest cases. And I mean those people who struggled to get better or respond differently to the treatments, and especially those with things like chronic pain, maybe chronic cancer, and had difficulty recovering. So this is in 1979. He created MBSR, and it's an 8-week structured group in which participants engage in mindfulness meditation, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, mindful yoga, which is a slow, body-focused, breath-focused practice, the body scan, and other mindfulness practices in an effort to assist participants in modifying their relationship to stress. So the short story is that through MBSR, we can move towards being responsive to things rising in our life versus reactive. Absolutely, with stress rising up, we're reactive. So the body reacts to the autonomic nervous system gets activated when stress happens, whether that's driving in a car, someone slams on the brake in front of you, or a test coming up, or a dog that won't stop barking out the window, or a child that's really unhappy and you can't soothe, all kinds of stress. So our autonomic nervous system gets triggered, and we have adrenaline, norepinephrine, cortisol flooding through the body. We have blood moving from the brain to the large muscles so that we're ready to fight or flee. And all of these things are happening in an effort that the oldest part of our brain, the brain stem, has been doing this for humans, since the beginning, as we ran from saber-toothed tigers, but we don't run from them anymore. And so in the 70s, we began to notice stress-related illness, cardiac problems, and started to, Hans Selye is his name, S-E-L-Y-E, laid out what is stress and what's the impact, began researching what's the impact on the body. So there are long-term impacts on the body for stress, like floating in those stress chemicals floating in the body. And they include things like impact on the brain, memory, processing, the brain ages more quickly, heart, other organs age. So why am I so into MBSR? Because I've been teaching MBSR. I'm in my 5th year of teaching MBSR, and I am just awaiting my certification to arrive from the University of California, San Diego, as a certified MBSR teacher. That was a 4-year process for me. It's quite a deal, but some people could probably do it quicker, but for me, 4 years. Which required lots of training on how to teach, teaching many sets of classes, so I could get a supervision via Zoom, like you will be doing. I want to share with you a couple things that students in my classes have reported about the class itself. Some report that they feel like, in a general way, just more calm in their life, better able to handle things. Another person reported that they actually felt like they became a better parent, that through the practices, they found that they were able to be present at work. And then when they went home, they could set work aside, even as it bubbled up and said, oh, I should do this. They could set that aside and listen to their child. And they found that very important and a great benefit. So there are many benefits, and there's lots of research supporting the effectiveness of MBSR. It shows effectiveness in assisting people with anxiety, depression, chronic pain. Let's see. Gosh, that's what's coming to me right now. And cancer survivors. That's what's coming to me right now. That it's very effective in helping people report lower symptoms. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way. This is John Kabat-Zinn's definition. Paying attention in a particular way, which is on purpose, in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So now, even as I tell you that definition, I'm aware that I'm more mindful of my speech and what's happening in my body as I talk, which means I speak a little slower, which is probably nice for you, and a little quieter. So on purpose, so I'm intending to pay attention. I notice some tension in my neck. I notice sort of, you can't see my hands, but I'm holding my hands, touching my fingers. I am also aware of thinking and expressing with you, trying to stay focused, or I am focused. But then just that moment, I started to get a little judge in there. Like, is it going well? Am I saying the right things? Are they going to get this? So non-judgmentally is a part of mindfulness. So to just notice, oh, there's those thoughts, Teresa. You're hoping, or you're wondering, will this work? Will they appreciate this? Will it facilitate learning? So, yeah, my notes are difficult today. I don't know what that phrase means. It says support. So the MBSR class itself is 8 weeks, like I said, structured group. And then we also have a one-day retreat. It's an 8-hour retreat in which participants practice all their practices in silence. And they deepen their experience. They have been practicing at home, and so they deepen, spend more time at it. It's really a lovely opportunity. The class itself and all of the mindfulness practices do require some, excuse, my phone went off there, here we go, do require some home practice, and it's 45 minutes to an hour a day, which sounds like a big commitment, and actually it is a pretty big commitment, and but students find a way, most generally. So a big thing about MBSR, so we're learning these mindfulness practices like meditation and yoga, and but how do they help us in our daily lives is the question, and how does it become really a psychotherapy? And so here's an example. We gain insights. For example, during a meditation, a breath meditation, you're going to do a little breath meditation. One may note, I may notice my thoughts rising up. I may notice stiffness in my body. And each time I notice my thoughts running, or maybe over-focusing on my body, I can just gently let go of that and return to the focus on the breath. And this is the practice over and over and over. We note when we've lost contact with the present moment in the breath and let go of wherever we were distracted to, usually to the future or the past, and then come back to the present moment in the breath. So in psychotherapy, that can be helpful in itself. Someone's developing the ability to be present. So rather than pushing away or avoiding what they're feeling or what's happening in their lives, one can be present, or whether one is holding on to, clinging to what is or what used to be, and that results in some suffering. Being able to use mindfulness can be helpful there. The other thing that can be helpful is insight gained from the practice. And so insight usually comes from, for example, in that same meditation, if I was having this meditation and I noticed my mind wandering into planning, I have a thing coming up a training coming up this week that I'm doing, and so I've been thinking about it a lot. So if it starts to intrude on my meditation, I can at that point notice, oh, I still have a good deal of anxiety about that presentation. Look, it's coming up. And I say, oh, anxiety, and I gently come back to my breath. So I can learn also my patterns. I can learn physical patterns, which often we hold emotion in our body. So I can learn that, gain awareness of being tight in the shoulders, holding it in my shoulders or my hips or elsewhere. And that also can be useful in counseling. So we work with what comes up. There are lots of little mindfulness-based interventions that you can use, that a client can come back or a student can come back and report, here's what I experienced, and then you can learn from that as well. I think I'll share one of those. There's one called, that I made up, which is SOAR. They're often acronyms. And SOAR stands for stop, observe. So let's say I was running around kind of frantically in the house, one task to another, to another, to another, and all of a sudden I noticed, wow, ooh. And so I stop, I observe what's going on, which might be shortness of breath, shifting focus, kind of rapid thoughts, and then I acknowledge, oh, yeah, I am moving really fast, and this is maybe stressing me out. So I acknowledge what is, and then I respond. So I could choose, how would I like to be? So I could take 3 breaths to slow down, to just be right here, right now. Or I could choose to do one of those things that I'm hopping back and forth doing, to focus on one. Or I could keep doing what I'm doing. But the stopping gives someone an opportunity to choose how to go forward. The opposite is that if I'm running around like that, kind of hectic, there's, you could say I'm responding to stress, maybe a giant to-do list. And so the typical thing would be to react, which is, and that's happening in the body too. And, but the mindful thing would be to respond. So that's one of the, that's something that you could use if you want it. It's helpful. So the MBSR has, is the first, built and created in 1979. And since then, there have been many MBIs, or mindfulness-based interventions, created. Probably, it's hard to know exactly which came next, but I think it was probably mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. And well, I should back up, because about the same time as MBSR, shortly after, DBT was created, dialectical behavior therapy, which is also in your textbook. And DBT, the creator of DBT, Marsha Linehan, also was a Zen practitioner and wanted to figure out how to help people with borderline personality disorder, people who have been just stuck in difficulty with interpersonal relationships and suicidal, hopeless thinking. So she created dialectical behavior therapy. So MBCT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, was created based on MBSR. Oh, DBT is a different model. These created sort of on its own. She created it on her own. These other models are really flow right out of MBSR. It's the core. So MBCT is designed to help people with chronic relapsing depression. One of the challenges with depression or depression treatment is that we can help people get to feeling better, both often with medication or nutrition and therapy. We can support people through that. And then it often returns. It could be physiological, it could be seasonal, could be situational, but it often returns, and then people feel even more hopeless, like, oh God, here I am again. So MBCT is one way to help people reduce that repetition, and has some great outcome research on that being effective. Another model is mindfulness-based relapse prevention, and MBRP. This is a aftercare model based on MBSR for those who've completed addiction treatment. And obviously relapse from addiction treatment is also really high. And so this model provides a different kind of aftercare that also shows to be quite effective. There's also MB EAT, E-A-T, which is mindful eating. And there is mindful self-compassion, which is a model created by Kristen Neff and Christopher Germer, which focuses on bringing self-compassion to oneself. And actually, there are, in the mindfulness tradition, there are 3 kinds of meditation. One is attention or concentration. A second is open monitoring. So concentration is often breath meditation or sound meditation. Open monitoring is being present for all that arises, and meditating at the same time. That is the meditation. And the third is loving kindness or compassion meditation. Yeah, so mindful self-compassion also developed into a 8-week class, similar structure, slightly different focus. So then there's also ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, which is another mindfulness-based model. And I have less training in this. I have some training, but it really brings in values and mindful awareness. So that might be one that you would be interested in as well. Okay, so the bottom line, it's kind of a long video. The bottom line is that all the mindfulness, the MBIs, the mindfulness-based interventions need to begin with me, with you. They need to begin with our own practice, our own personal understanding of what it means to be mindful or distracted, and to be able to notice in the moment with our clients and students when might be helpful to offer a variety of mindfulness interventions. And that reminds me, I forgot one of the list, mindfulness in the schools. It's called Mindful Schools is one of the options. And if you're working in the school, you can Google that. That's also one of the options for your discussion board post. The Mindful Schools is a curriculum for bringing mindfulness into the school curriculum. And it is being offered throughout the world. MBSR is definitely around the world, but Mindful Schools is also spreading probably in the last 6 to 8 years. It's really, really grown. So that may be something that you're interested in. So, and it begins with you. So if you want to learn more, you could Google, you could use your book. You can get, as I've said throughout this class, go with the primary resources. So go to the primary authors of these models and get some training. Take MBSR, take Mindful Self-Compassion class, engage in your own practice. And you could visit my webpage, mbsromaha.org. This is my webpage that has a lot of information about MBSR, as well as links to recordings for meditation and yoga that you may be interested in. So I think that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're going to enjoy the assignments this week, and I look forward to the next several weeks working with you.